Welcome friends, my name is Gustavo Mancilla. In celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, and Latino Media proudly presents the 2025 edition of our original series, Yo Un Latino en Minnesota. This year's season shines a spotlight on the entrepreneurial spirit driving growth within the Latino community, featuring insightful profiles of local innovators and entrepreneurs who not only are thriving building businesses, but also create opportunities and strengthen Minnesota's cultural and economic fabric. Their stories embody the resilience, the vision, the lasting impact of Latino leadership in shaping a more inclusive and prosperous future for all of us. Presented in collaboration with the Minnesota Twins, Un Latino en Minnesota, Me, a Latino in Minnesota, continues to amplify the voices of influential local figures, celebrating their contributions while inspiring others to embrace and define their own version of what it means to be proudly Latino. Stay tuned and enjoy the stories and reflections of Cristel Thyssen-Escobar, Pablo Calaca, James Carlson, and Aide Salgado. Proudly Latinos in Minnesota.
If we are to be true to our Minnesota Latino heritage, we really have to focus on giving back all along the way. Not waiting till we've made it, not waiting until we've made the dream, but really embracing our Minnesota roots, which is that philanthropy of giving back, reaching out, teaching, educating, working together. And I think that we as Latinos can contribute more if we embrace that, which I think is a huge cultural asset that is already present in Minnesota. My name is Cristel Thyssen-Escobar, and I am originally from southern Mexico. I came to Minnesota as a child with my mom in the early 90s, and I grew up here in the northwest suburbs. And now I live in the St. Paul area with my husband, kids, and we're both entrepreneurs. So I have an insurance business and also a kids resale boutique. So I really enjoyed living in Minnesota, but also being very connected to Mexico while I grew up in Minnesota. I spent actually most of my summers going back to Mexico and spending time with my grandparents who were cacao chocolate farmers, and also many family members who worked in the oil industry, which is another big industry in the state of Tabasco, where I'm originally from. It's the southernmost part of the Gulf, and quite a contrast from Minnesota, but I just loved that contrast. I feel very fortunate to have grown up in Minnesota and stand on the shoulders of just some megalith philanthropists that have done so much for the state. I am thankful for my education, which I know was positively impacted by so many of these wonderful philanthropists that have come throughout the generations here in Minnesota. And I also feel that even while it may apparently be challenged, I feel like the people of Minnesota are truly trying to build an inclusive place. It is my responsibility as one of those that have been fortunate to grow up in both cultures to be one of those bridges of communication for more understanding. There are problems to solve. So every time new communities enter an area, like the Latino communities entered Minnesota, there's of course challenges, there's problems and even friction. And I've been fortunate through the great education that I've had in the state to be able to work on solving some of those problems. And I think that really I have been a catalyst to help other entrepreneurs integrate, get into business, stay in business, and then grow and prosper their businesses. I think we have arrived at a time where we all know that we all share an equal responsibility in taking care of our planet. We're so globally connected. We see more closely now than ever before the impact of our consumption here on the rest of the world, especially on those who are already living on the margins. And I think that as Latinos, we come from places where maybe opportunities are lacking or there are substantial challenges. Some of them come from the results of the Industrial Revolution and a lot of the consumption that comes with economic prosperity. And so, how do we pursue economic prosperity without damaging the very source of everything? And I think that the connection that Latinos and other immigrants have to our homelands and to other places that where the precarious environment is really changing, we can educate people more about the impacts on the world of our consumption here. Yeah, what I would like Minnesotans to know about the Latino community is we are so grateful to be here. The quality of life and the opportunity to advance our families is so precious. And we are here to contribute. We are here to integrate and be a part of the culture, be a part of faith groups, be a part of educating our kids, be a part of governing and being good stewards of the land and all of the resources. We're here to participate richly, help elevate Minnesota and move the state forward. Latinos are here to help solve so many of the problems we're facing today in a really positive way and add so much to just the already beautiful cultural environment we have here in Minnesota. My name is Cristel Tyson Escobar, and I'm a Latina entrepreneur in St. Paul, Minnesota.
When I was young, I think I can change the world with art, but now I don't think that way. But why I keep doing this? Because I think we can make big improvements in people's lives, and we can not just beautifying the city, but give a meaning to that beautifying. I am Pablo Calaca. I am a muralist. I am a painter. I am a public artist. I was born in Chile. I grew up in Venezuela. So I say I am Chilean Venezuelan. I am both. I feel that way. I come from a family of artists. My mother was a painter. My dad is a kind of graphic designer, cartoonist, political activist. I studied arts in Barcelona, then in Venezuela, and now I'm here. I think art and activism is very easy to combine when you're a public artist, because when you paint in the streets or outdoors, you need to be aware of where you are and who is surrounding you. You are not paying in your studio for your own, you're paying for others. So you need to think in not just in others, but in their conditions, the problems they're facing, the political context or the historical context of that place. Coming to Minnesota never was part of my plans. It was a series of nice coincidences. I came here in 2018 to paint the first mural I made. That was the Mercado Central. So I had the chance to meet a micro reality of the city, and that was a very good experience for me. And I had the chance to come back in 2019, and I met a very important person that is now my partner in life, who is Daniela. We create an art studio that is DACA Studio, DACA for Dani and Calaca, and we are creating art together, and we are doing fine so far. I think what I like the most of this diversity, kaleidoscopic community is this is a very welcoming place for everyone, and I think that is what I like the most since the first day I came here. I spent my last years painting in Latino businesses and Somali businesses, and they are working really hard and they're making things happen and making this city going onward. And I'm being part of it. I think my part in this process is to make it visible and to make it meaningful, not just for us, but for everyone else. We need to work, and we need to think as business people. We need to pay taxes. We need to find jobs. We need to collect receipts and all of that things. And we need to make our work known to gain more projects. There is a lot of work for everybody, I think. But at the same time, you need to be competitive. You need to be a business person as any other business. We are all together, and Latino community is here from a lot of time, and we are part of not just to the economy. We are part of the living. We are part of the mechanisms of living of the city. We are part of the blood of the city. So I think it's a good moment to defeat the criminalization of difference and know each other better. I think it's a good moment. It's a very naive thing I'm saying, but I think we can do it. Muhammad Ali said one time, me, we. I think that is a good motor for me, to think we are a me and we are a we. I am Pablo Calaca. I am a Latino artist in Minnesota.
Meet leaders in the Hispanic community with the series Yo Un Latino en Minnesota.
Latinos are here to help solve so many of the problems we're facing today in a really positive way and add so much to just the already beautiful cultural environment we have here in Minnesota.
The majority of people, Latinos, are probably under 40. Many professionals, many people are coming from Colombia, they're coming from Venezuela, they're coming from Ecuador, and they're coming with degrees because they're educated. They also know how to open businesses. And many Latinos are opening tons of businesses around Minnesota because of that.
Offering a better understanding of the contributions made by the Latino community in Minnesota.
Now we are fully ingrained in the Minnesota society, in the Minnesota fabric. Everyone knows that Latinos are out there and they're creating and they're bringing, something to the forefront.
So I think it's a good moment to defeat the criminalization of difference, know each other better.
Produced by M Latino Media, Yo Un Latino en Minnesota is presented by the Minnesota Twins, proudly celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month.
Anybody asks me, what are you? I'm Latino. It's not a problem. I see a Latino, I start talking Spanish. If I see a white person, I start talking English. But that duality, being raised in the two cultures has allowed me to be sort of a chameleon. I'm able to move from the white areas and to the Latino areas seamlessly. I can navigate both, and that's been one of the reasons for my success in my career. I'm James Carlson. I'm from Puerto Rico. I came to Minnesota in 1982. My father is North American from Boston area. That's where I was born. My mother's Puerto Rican. When I was 2 years old, they decided to move to Puerto Rico, so I grew up in Puerto Rico. Went and graduated from high school from Carver High School in Puerto Rico. That makes me culturally Hispanic, culturally Latino, bien puertorriqueño, bien boricua, and I'm proud. I came to Minnesota in 1982, straight from high school to Macalester College. Back in those days, they had a program that recruited Puerto Ricans, and I met the recruiters, and they decided to give me a scholarship, so I came here. At Macalester, I graduated with a business and economics degree, and I started working in the private sector when I first started working at General Mills. Due to familial status, I had decided to get married. I was working in Florida, decided to come back to Minnesota since I was getting married. Because I wasn't sure, when you were transitioning, I didn't have a job when I decided to move back. I decided to explore circumstances and get to meet people. So I volunteered for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, doing some work and managing some of the stuff for them. Then, because of that, I was able to, they recommended me to a job within the state. And that opened the door for me to learn more about the governmental sector and the non-public sector. From that opportunity, I became the executive director of the Chicano Latino Affairs Council, and then I worked at Clues, and that's what got me into the nonprofit sector. So the Latino landscape today is much different than when I first arrived. It was mostly Mexican, which it still is, but right now it's extremely young. The majority of people, Latinos, are probably under 40. It's a very young community, but vibrant. Many professionals, many people are coming from Colombia, they're coming from Venezuela, they're coming from Ecuador, and they're coming with degrees from their universities. Now, unfortunately, because of how we do things in the United States, if you're a doctor in Ecuador, you cannot be a doctor here. But they're still educated, so they are able to get jobs in corporate America within their fields of expertise. If you're a lawyer in Venezuela, you might not be able to practice law, but you can be in corporate America working within that, in your space, while you maybe or arrange yourself your paperwork better, or go back to school, or you make those decisions. More importantly, because they're educated, they also know how to open businesses. And many Latinos are opening tons of businesses around Minnesota because of that. Opening a business in Minnesota is different than opening a business in Mexico and Venezuela. There's a lot more rules, lots of rules. Unfortunately, some cities like Minneapolis and St. Paul have way too many rules. So we've been opening business at a faster pace than any demographic in Minnesota. We will figure the rules. But you understand that there's going to be some rules that just once you know how they are, and people like me are here to help, and I've helped open probably 10 different businesses in the last 6 years. I've been running my own company called Premier Latino Events. One of the things that that I'm proud of, that how we contribute to Latino. My part of the company also runs a radio show on Jazz 88, and it's a 3-hour show every Sunday from 1 to 4, in which we give to the community la música de nosotros, our music. And the show is mostly in Spanish, which is unusual for Jazz 88 because that's a mostly English language. But we have been received with open arms by them and the community and jazz about bringing different types of music that are Latino, and also embracing the fact that the show is mostly in Spanish. One of the things that we did on the Premier Latino events was network events. It was called the Latino Roundtable. And there was, previous to up to the Latino Roundtable, there was another network event of Latinos that has passed this time. And I thought it was time to energize that. I also noticed that there's a lot of Latino professionals working at General Mills now. They're working at Pillsbury. They were working at Medtronic. And they're looking for ways to connect with other Latinos. So the Latino Roundtable was a combination of entrepreneurs who had their own business and a lot of business professionals to connect. So we did it for about 4 years, I believe. Well, what I like about Minnesota is the Minnesota people, for the most part. There are problems everywhere, but Minnesota is Minnesota nice for a reason. The majority of people here really want to get to know you. They want to get to know the culture, and that I love about Minnesota. One of my favorite phrases that sort of guides me is from Judge Sonia Sotomayor from the Supreme Court. And I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know exactly how it goes, but basically she said something to the effect that I don't let other people judge me, and I don't let other people's judgment control what I think. So, and that's basically how I am. I've done my life the way I like it. I've made my mistakes, but I don't allow the judgment of others to dictate how I'm going to live. And I'm James Carlson. I'm Boricua, para que tú lo sepas, from Puerto Rico, and also a Latino of Minnesota.
I think I'm a leader, but only because it's what we do. I feel like the father who works 12 hours a day to make ends meet and provide for their children, like, he's a leader. He's leading his family. I think that woman who is trying to learn English, even though she had very few opportunities for a formal education in her home country, she's a leader. I know a lot of people who have DACA status, and they're still trying to figure out how to study and how to be advocates for our community. They are leaders. So I think the values of immigrants just really align with the values of leadership. I was actually born in Chicago, so I'm an American, but I grew up in Mexico. My family moved to Mexico when I was very young, and then we came back to the US, to Minnesota specifically, when I was 11. And my experience was always revolving around being an entrepreneur. My parents were pioneers in that sense. They started a family restaurant when I was 11, and that was right when we moved to Minnesota. And we lived in the basement of that restaurant. There were 10 of us living there. And my life revolved around that little restaurant, working there as a waitress, as a dishwasher. And then as the Latino community grew, there was also a need for a money transfer service in our community. And my family started another location right next to the restaurant where we were doing money transfer services. And we were also offering other financial services to the community. And at the time, that meant bill pay services, phone cards, just services that were really needed in our community. And I grew up with that. I grew up offering those services to people, working as a cashier there, and just really seeing that these were needs that our community had. And after I went off to college, I realized that that's what I wanted to do. So I actually went and got my bachelor's degree in international business, and I got a master's in finance, but always with the idea that I wanted to remain an entrepreneur. I was blessed with the opportunity to live abroad. I lived in Italy and in Spain for 10 years, and I loved my time there. It was such an enriching experience. But there's nothing like home. There's nothing like being with the people who understand that struggle, who understand that resilience that comes from being an immigrant and from working really hard to achieve those goals and from creating something from scratch, which is what you do when you're an entrepreneur. It was just amazing. It was just so thrilling to see how our community evolved so much in those 10 years that I was gone. When I was growing up here, I was the Latino kid in school. I was the Latino business in the street we were in. I was the Latino family. We were the Latino family in our neighborhood. That's no longer the case. Now we are fully ingrained in the Minnesota society, in the Minnesota fabric, right? And we're also a big part of the entrepreneur community. Everyone knows that Latinos are out there and they're creating and they're bringing, something to the forefront. And I love that. I came back in 2020, so this was right after George Floyd. And I remember driving down Lake Street, which was my street, which was a street where my family's businesses were thriving. And that was like a war zone. And I remember driving down that street, and a part of me wanted to cry because it just felt like so desolate. And it felt like everything we had worked so hard for had been burned to the ground. And at the same time, there was a part of me, there was this little voice inside my head that was telling me, don't you worry, we are going to thrive. We are going to make it out of this. We are going to rise from these ashes. And we did, because that's what our community does. We believe in opportunity. We believe in hard work. We believe in thriving and striving to grow and to help those around us. I really believe that those are core values of Minnesotans, but I also think they're core values of our community. So what I would say to Minnesotans is we're one and the same. We're a match made in heaven. With the work that I'm doing, I genuinely feel I contribute to my community. I'm very involved in a nonprofit organization called Prepare and Prosper, where I do a lot of volunteer work and bring financial empowerment to our community. I also have a business that offers financial strategy creation and provides financial education to entrepreneurs in particular. And this is work that's necessary. This is something that provides growth, that provides a landscape where our community can thrive. So I feel very proud of bringing that in. We only have one life to live, so carpe diem. And I try to live by that every single day. My name is Aide Salgado, and I'm a Latino entrepreneur in Minnesota.